God, politics, and sports. Three areas that people say you need to avoid. But here we are. I'm Bill Smith with GPS, God, Politics, and Sports. We'll talk about faith, sports, and political activities. I look forward to talking to you.
What is going on, El Paso? What's going on in the country from coast to coast and border to border? This is me back again. And here we go as we get rolling again with God, politics, and sports. And I want you to know it's a great time. This is an awesome time once again to live in the greatest country in the world. It's an awesome time once again just to be able to come before you and to talk with you and let you know, hey, this is me. This is who I am. And that's what we're going to do over the next minutes, uh, 20, 30 minutes, whatever it might be. We're going to talk a little bit about everything. We're going to talk about me. We're going to talk about God. We're going to talk about politics. And we're definitely going to talk about sports because we have one of the greatest events ever in my life every year that comes up. It's a great event because it's the Super Bowl. It's also a sad time because it's the end of the NFL season. And then it's just, I know they got UFL and other things that go on, but it's just the end of that. And I was sitting there thinking over over the evening time. I said, what is it about me that maybe I didn't touch on? So I just thought, you know what, who I am? I was a youth pastor for 18 years, from 1993 to 2010. So it's about 17 years. I was youth pastor at Joy Center. Awesome time. I would tell you one thing: being with teenagers and seeing how these teenagers can be. It was really funny because now all of them, especially my first group, some of them have children in their 20s, and now they can look back and they can, some will come back and they say, man, thanks a lot for what you share with us, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, how much it changed their lives. And a lot of times we don't realize what we say to people, especially with children, we think is always going to take root immediately. But one thing I've learned over my years, not just as a youth pastor, but over my 29 years of coaching football, track, wrestling, and anything basketball, whatever it might be, is there are things that you may say to them that you don't think is getting through their, like, man, this is, it's not getting through their thick skull. They ain't paying attention to it. Then you look up and they come back to you and they tell you thanks because what you shared at this time really made a difference. And I know in my life with all the coaches that I mentioned in the first show and the people, there are things that were said to me I didn't grasp hold of at first. But then as you get older, those things start to really start to root. So I want to encourage you, everybody, when you out and about, it may not be a kid you know that well, but sometimes you can just say one small thing to them, and you may think they're ignoring you. You may think that they can care less what you're saying, but what you said will come back. What you said will come back to them, and will come back into fruition in their life, and you'll see what you did was something powerful. So I just really wanted to get into shout out to uh, especially my peeps back in Jersey. I got some awesome. I was mentioning men, and they made an impact in my life. But you know what I didn't do? I didn't mention my fam. I didn't mention my cousins. I have some awesome cousins. I'm the only boy. My dad has four. My mom has three. But either way, I'm the only boy. Four kids. We don't do steps. I don't have a half sister. She's a whole person. So I got four. I got three sisters and me. But then I ain't get no props to my cousins because I got some awesome cousins, and they all help mold. That's one of the reasons why I'm a Raider fan. That's why you see that Raider thing sit right up there in the back, right there. There you go. That's why I'm a Raider fan because this is funny. I used to pick every year whoever was the Super Bowl champion was my favorite team for the next year, and it came down to it. I was 12, 13 years old, and these cats said, "Yo, Smitty, you got to pick one person. You got to pick one team. You can't run around every year picking a new team." I said, all right, whoever wins the Super Bowl, that's going to be my favorite team. And it was the 1980 season, but the 1981 Super Bowl. I believe it was Super Bowl, oh, let me think, 13, 14, 14, 15, I'm sorry, Super Bowl 15. I believe, yeah, Super Bowl 15. And it was the Raiders and the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I wasn't a big Ron Jaworski fan. I wasn't a big Ron Jaworski fan. And Wilbert Montgomery hurt my feelings because I had I'm not, it's not old, but I had a racquetball and I wanted him to sign it. and they had some celebrity softball game or something going on out there in Jersey, and he wouldn't sign it because he said, I never forgot it. I never forgot this. I must have been 11. And he said, I'm not signing that because all you're going to do is just knock the name off of it. As if I would take a racquetball with his name on it and go out and play wall ball or racquetball or whatever. So that kind of ticked me off. So I was really hoping the Raiders would win. And Jim Plunkett and Rob Martin and Kenny King, they came through for a brother when I needed them. Cliff Branch, they all came through for me. So I ended up being a Raider fan. So I had to pick. That was a team I had to pick. So thanks to Blade, Sean Phillips, thanks to Thrill, Mike Hill, Dwayne Robb, Steve Robb, all my cousins up in there. That's the reason why I'm a Raider fan, because they told the line, and they're all younger than me, but they told the line and they said, nah, man, you got to pick one. You can't keep running all over the place, picking teams every year. And it used to be big time Steelers, because this is awesome. Our team growing up, Fleetwood Indians, was black and gold, so or black and yellow. Everything was based, and we were the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the team that one of our rival teams was the uh, Beverly Roadrunners, I believe, or something of that nature. But they had the Raider colors, so they were black and silver. So with me liking the Raiders, I felt kind of like I was doing Fleetwood wrong because of the colors, but I grew out of that because I had to my colors. Actually, you know what? My colors never changed all the way up through high school. We were always in the same colors from the time I was 8 all the way up to the time I was 17. I was in the same color scheme. Only time I wasn't was when I wrestled for Green Tree, and of course that was green. But all the way up through that time, and then I started thinking. I said, man, you've had a lot of nicknames attached to you over the years because of sports. I mean, we were Indians, Warriors, and Chiefs. I think that Fleetwood ended up being a Chief. I think it was the Indians, the youngest, Warriors were the middle, and Chiefs were the oldest age group. I can't remember. And then from there, with Green Tree, there was no nickname. It was just Green Tree Wrestler. And then from there, when I went to high school, I was a Quaker, and we did the Quaker thing uh, for a while. And when I went to college, well, we ain't gonna count that really. Even though it was Chawan Chiefs at the time, I think it was, but that don't count because only I didn't wrestle. I was supposed to go there to wrestle, but I only cut weight. Very immature. Very much so like that maturity and discipline that was necessary. So I'm not ashamed of it. I'm thrilled now in one aspect that it happened because uh, in my process, and I this how I ended up in the army. So you guys know, because people always ask me, how did you end up in El Paso? Well, because I was laying on my couch. I was laying on my couch. The recruiter showed up. Now, growing up in my neighborhood, you could leave the front door open, and the screen door wouldn't even be locked, and you know nobody was coming in. You can't even do that now. Even in my hometown, you try to do that now. Folks, somebody might come in like bruh man on the fifth floor, fourth floor, fifth floor, anyway, and just show up and want to walk up in your house. So I'm laying on the couch. Recruiter knocks on the door. I come around. He's looking for my sister. I don't know where she's at. He said, "So what are you doing?" I said, well, "I'm going to college." College. She said, "How would you like money to go to college?" Oh, sounds good to me. And long story short, I took the ASVAB, and this is not a proud moment. I wasn't. I think I was. I think I was hungover when I took it, so it really didn't help my score any. But I took the ASVAB, enlisted, and they said to me, "You said you got two choices for the Army College Fund: field artillery or airborne." And I just thought to myself, why would I jump out of something that's flying perfectly well so I can start walking? So, man, brother, I gotta give it up for you cats in the Air Force, the air assaults, the just straight up 11 Bravo, whether it's light or whether it's mechanized, whatever it might be. You guys get out and just walk, and I'm gonna give you props on that. 'Cause in basic training, they assign you where you go. Now, of course, with me, when they say El Paso or Texas, the first thing you think of is, well, I'm thinking of uh, Dallas in Dallas, Texas, and I'm thinking of you know that area. I didn't know what an El Paso was until I saw it. We were on our break because they gave us a Christmas break from basic training at AIT, and I was on my break, and I look up, and on the map because it was the bowl game that they have here, and it was showing it on CBS, and you see Dallas in the middle and El Paso on the other side. I said, "Man, Lord, what did you get me into?" So anyway, that's how I ended up out here with that too, just to kind of close all that together. But it was a great experience, and I'm really glad. I really thank God that it went down that way because I was able to uh, grow and learn, and of course, uh, I once again those cats that I grew up with, and we still stay in contact with each other almost on a daily. Every couple of days, we get in our text group and we start tripping with each other. But we had things we would call each other. We had some mean names. Today today. Let me see how I put this. Today, folks might call us bullies. Today, they might say you guys were mean to each other. But to us, it was that's just how you did. That's how you conducted yourself. Everybody knew where you were. You shot straight from the hip. There wasn't no shucking and jiving. And either you sucked it up and moved on, or you stayed in your feelings and everybody talked about you a whole lot. So these cats, we play football. I play football with them all. Russell with Mike Russell. Sean was track. Mike Muse was track. Dwayne was track. Steve was, so they was all track, etc. Me and Mike was football and wrestling. The other ones were football and track. Uh, and Mike Muse went to Overbrook. So great hurdler, one of the best hurdlers I've ever seen. So it was a that's what helps make up all about some of those things with me. So now, why did I choose these topics? Why did I choose these three topics? Why did I say to label it God, politics, sports? Why would I take those three things? Because one of the things people say is, man, you don't, those folks are always banging heads on those things. And I may have covered this in the first show, first podcast, but I want to hit it again because I think it's important that everybody knows that, yeah, these these are some big time topics. Now, sports is a little bit lighter, uh, and unfortunately, sometimes people take it too much when it comes to sports. And with uh, with when we come to the talk of the things of God, people want to debate instead of just study the word and see what the word says. And that's why I don't think I know it's important that you have a pastor because God said He'll give you pastors after His own heart. And I will say this flat out: I'm not a believer, and I think it's wrong when people say, "Well, I can just pray and stay home." You got to have somebody giving you the word. You got to have somebody that's sharing the word of God with you. And then even with that, when you go to church, take your Bible, study. The Bible says to study to show thyself approved. It doesn't say just listen to somebody because you never know what somebody may be sharing with you. And you're just sitting there thinking, oh, well, this is all good. Look at the script. And I love that my pastor, Dr. Brown, and he'll be one of our guests soon. He'll be one of the guests soon. Is go back and reread everything that was shared with you. Go back and read those scriptures again because you'll begin to see as you begin to read those scriptures again so many important and awesome things that are going on in there. And then you can attest it for yourself and see how that truth is and see how things are being brought to life in your life. What are you jumping on? What are you moving? How is God talking to you? What is God saying to you? When the man of God begins to share a word, I don't know if you ever seen somebody say, "Oh, that was just for them." I'm a firm believer in one thing: when you go forward and you're hearing the word of God, you should never walk out of the church comfortable. There should be something that's stirring up your spirit that says within you that I need to be doing more. What can I be doing? What am I not doing? What am I? Not that you don't feel good coming out. Don't get that wrong. but something should be ignited in you, not to motivate you. There's a difference because you could be demotivated. So it's not to motivate you. It's not to get you pumped up and fired up. You're not trying to get it on 4th and 1. No, it should be something that ignites within you to go forward to that next level. And I said once again, this podcast probably should have been started 4 years ago. Probably 4 years ago. I did a podcast with my son-in-law. Him and his buddies had a podcast, and I believe it was 2018, 19, something of that nature. And it may have been before. I can't remember. And I was on there. I had a great time. I said, "Man, this is something I want to do," but I sat on it. But then as that word came to me towards the end of uh, 2025, it was I couldn't sleep. I could eat. The eating part was not gonna have, but it was sleeping, and it was 3 o'clock, 2:45, 3 o'clock every morning. I was getting up. I said, I got to do this because I know God is ministering and sharing with me because of the words that I've heard. So it's important that you're listening to the word and that you're hearing the word. And with that word that you're hearing, you move on it. So that's why the God part of this thing is so powerful because we'll have a chance to talk about things, and I'll share more testimonies, and other folk will have people in sharing their testimonies of how God has really blessed them, not just financially, but with children, uh, breakthroughs, bringing marriages back together. These are the things that are, but we're still gonna keep it light. We ain't gonna have folks in here crying all the time. I had a young man ask me, "Hey, is this gonna be?" I said, "I'm not trying to get on here yelling and screaming and hollering at people." And when folks are watching it on YouTube and Instagram, and when we're doing our live, when we're doing this every week, and people are answering up, I want it to be light. I want to hear testimonies. I want to hear. Now, you're gonna have some folks that are gonna disagree. I don't mind hearing that either, but we will disagree without calling names. We will disagree if you choose to disagree and don't like something that is said. We'll do it with class, or I'll delete you. I got no problem with doing that. Not because of the disagreement, but the words that are shared. The rhetoric will always carry itself in a godly manner. So I have no problem. Then the politics, all the political side of this house. Why would I pick politics? Well, let's go all the way back. We're gonna go all the way back because I've always enjoyed. I love history, and part of history we know that, especially U.S. history, everything's political. From the Boston Tea Party up through Make America Great Again, everything has been politics. So I love history. I love war history, our country war history. I love reading about it, seeing what it is, the some things, the falsities that get exposed, or the truths that come to light. I love reading and seeing those things. And also, I'm a firm believer in one thing: your leadership. You start to see how to conduct yourself as a leader, the pros and the cons in warfare in that time of struggle. So I love looking and reading about. And then some people will say, "Well, this person was a racist, or this person was this." One, we need to stop doing one thing. Stop holding people accountable for 1885 when we're in 2026. I think that's one of the dumbest things we ever do. How are you gonna hold somebody accountable for something they've been dead for 100 plus years, 200 years? Whatever was happening in 1884, 85, 86, 65, and what they were saying, that fit that time period. Would it work in 2026? No, it probably wouldn't, because people are so much more sensitive now. But the first thing we want to say is, well, this person was this back in that. He sure was, or she sure was. Whether the person was black, white, Hispanic, Asian, that was that time period. And what was not acceptable now may have been acceptable then. We need to stop pigeonholing people into 2026 standards. I said 2025 in the beginning because we're only a month in it, but we're in 2026 standards. We can't hold people to those standards. So when I talk about a Ulysses S. Grant or George Washington, um, Robert E. Lee was a great general. Uh, Sherman, these were great. Longstreet, these were great generals in Civil War time, or Patton, Pershing, great generals as you roll through into Custer, Up in the Sitting Bull, Custer was a bad man, but then Sitting Bull put it on him. So these were great men and military standards men, and they displayed leadership and strategy. Like I said, Pershing, Eisenhower. I think I already said Patton, MacArthur. These great strategic men, Bull Halsey in the Navy wise, great strategic men. And then you rolled into um, some in the Korean conflict where you had some great generals there and leaders that were commanders that did a great thing. And even in Vietnam, now remember one thing in Vietnam, if I'm correct, I don't remember us ever really losing a battle, and I could be wrong with that, but the battle of public opinion was where that was lost. But those men like my father and uncles and cousins and many of your fathers and grandfathers that are watching the podcast when they were beaten in those jungles and on those rice paddies and on the Mekong rivers and flying in jets and etc. They fought a battle and they would take land and had to give it back. And it's really hard for me to fault them and say, well, they lost the war because on the ground they never lost the war. But in public opinion and in the world and how people saw the country, yeah, the battle was lost. There was a lot of separation, which is unfortunate because they did a tremendous job on the ground, but they weren't allowed to win. And then you go into whether it was invading Panama or you go into Desert Shields, Desert Storm, which I was a part of. I got my Gulf War veteran hat up on my wall, and having people like a Colin Powell, it was awesome. Schwarzkopf, even from our regiment squadron commander to regimental commander. I was in the third ACR. To the generals that were out there was tremendous, and all that we did. And then the second time we went back, even in the time period in Somalia with where you get from Black Hawk down, it wasn't the greatest thing for our country for that moment, but those soldiers fought. So you see all the great leadership that we've had militarily. So that's why when it comes to politics, to get back to the political side of it, uh, I think that we it should be something that we talk about. It should be something that we address because as much as I love history and all those things I've mentioned, all of it still leads back to politics. Everything's political, whether it's Democrat, a Republican, Libertarian, an independent. They had other things. I'm sorry at the top of my head, I don't remember all of them. Uh, Growing up throughout history, Federalist, that was before Democrat and Republican. So you had different parties even before that. So all these things that go on, politics, our whole country is based upon it. Even the things when it comes to church, not being taxed. Uh, if you say so, and every 4 years, depends on who's president, how the church is addressed politically. So those things are very important. And I do want to say something to my conservative uh, friends, more conservative friends. We do need to take account, or we need to take some uh, responsibility for the lopsided coverage or speak towards our current president. Because as I look back, and I've always told y'all, and I said this from the very beginning, I hold us all accountable. I have no problem with it. Whether you're consider yourself more conservative, liberal, whatever it might be, there'll be honest and straight up accountability that goes on with us. But I look back at it, and I was watching thing, not the History Channel. It's called War. It's a war channel, something of nature, something like that. But anyway, they were talking. You saw different. I'm sorry, I was it was a class I was doing, and you saw how they addressed and talked to each other politically over the years, and everything stuck to policy. Very little became personal. Most of it stuck to policy. Yes, you had people flat out said that Roosevelt's New Deal was more socialist and communist things that were being oppressed, but they didn't attack him as a person. They attacked the policy that he was under. you would see that, not you would see that for years. And my Lincoln loved to uh, root getting rooted into politics started in high school in probably 1980 when uh, when Reagan ran. So actually, I wasn't even in high school yet. I was in eighth grade, seventh grade. When Reagan ran for president and he beat Carter, and I started paying attention to it then, and I liked what he said. And I still, you don't have to agree with me. I still think he's the best president ever, as far as Ronald Reagan. I don't. There's a, some everyone will have their favorite, but it's all subjective. So it's not really a debate. It's not like we're debating who was greater, but who's the greatest basketball player of all time. Hands down is Jordan. That's a whole nother discussion in itself. LeBron shouldn't even be mentioned. Jordan, Kobe, and then we'll go from there. So, but even if you want to put Jordan, Jabbar, Jordan, Russell, Jordan, anybody, then you go from there. But if you said to me real quick, I'll get back to the politics parts. It's definitely gonna be Jordan. Kobe's gonna be in that top three somewhere, and you have to go down the line and look throughout history. So you might pick a Kareem or Magic Johnson or Larry Bird. Um, Not that LeBron should be up in there in the top 6 or 7 ish, but at least 5 or 6 I put in front of him. Some people are gonna watch this and they're gonna get on YouTube. They're gonna say, "Have you lost your mind? He has this, that, this, that, this. He got all the stats in the world. If I play 50 years, I have all the stats too." That dude played a long time. But anyway, back to this. So a lot of the rhetoric that we hear now, or the feedback that we hear now, that's going towards this president, it started, and he was one of the ones who started when they were. And I'm not an Obama apologist. I'm just keeping it 100. The things that, whether it was the birth certificates or this, the identity politics started. Identity politics started in 2008. Everything was done by identity instead of who you are as a person. So when identity politics, and then the attacks that came, it led, because then it was both ways. It would be attacking a person. Are you really an American? Are you this? Whatever it might be. And then it was, well, people don't like policies because he's black or I'm black, whatever. And so these things, these identity politics really started. And I got to keep it 100. Our current president, he kept some of that rolling. He helped some of that to get going. I'm sorry to take that out there. I was getting a little reflection in there. He helped some of that get going with some of the things he said. So now, when this guy could walk out, hand you the cure to cancer, and still be attacked. And that's the sad part about it, is because I believe that conservatives ushered in the uh, the attacks. Uh, they ushered in that identity politics with some of the attacks, some of the things that were said, and now liberals have taken it to a whole new level. And we see so many things happening in our country because the Bible tells us a kingdom divided will surely fall. And one thing is, media or medium, that's something that the enemy controls. But media, and nobody, whether you're conservative or more liberal media, everyone has an agenda. But the agenda is not always the truth. It's ratings. Remember that. Look at look at it. Ratings. Everybody judges stuff off of the ratings. And you have so many that will stop what they're doing, and man, they'll go at you like they'll go at you like a mad dog over their ratings. So that's what. So those things, politics. That's why I put political things in there, because I love talking about politics. I think that it is. It would be wonderful to get back to having open bipartisan debate, and settling those things in the chambers, in the halls, in the chambers, by intelligent people, not emotional, not sitting there being what's that word I'm looking for? Uh, uh, bait, clickbait, saying things just to try to grab somebody's attention. No, it's time to get back to where it is good, open discussion that people are sharing, and they can sit down in a partisan, not partisan, excuse me, bipartisan manner, and just don't make decisions just across what what best fits this country. And that's why I love talking about politics, because someone has to be a voice and say, hey, the common man, we see the common person, and I say common, but nobody's really common, but I'll just use that word because my man Dusty Rhodes used to call himself the common man when he was in WWE. But before that, he was the Bull of the Woods, Big Dust, the American Dream, the Tower of Power, too sweet to be sour. That's what he would say. He would say, I've dined with kings and queens, and I slept in alley and ate pork and beans. So Big Dust, that was Big Dust. But so many things that can be changed with that. So that's what really got me into that and looking at. And I love history, but I also want to see what can make a change. How can we make a difference in the things that we're saying? And I believe it's important that we talk about politics with one another because it's such an important part. And of course, sports is sports. And I told y'all before, I believe I was conceived during football season, and we're gonna finish up talking about this one thing. But let me go back to something real quick. We're talking about the things of God in the Bible. My favorite Bible characters are Joshua, Samson, David, and Peter. And if you want to guess why and say why and see people home, because they were the most hostile and violent ones that I could think of. Joshua was a warrior. Joshua didn't play games. He was very obedient unto God, and God made the time stop for him to go to battle. He prayed for that. But I love what it says in Joshua 1, 7, and 8 about being of good courage and being courageous and hearing what God is saying. And then, of course, Samson. Samson went through some things, but Samson was obedient unto God to his last breath. His disobedience caused his fall. But I love the fact that he got back up and his last breath in that time period. If you look in that scripture, you see his hair was growing back. His hair was growing back. And everyone says his strength is in his hair. We see that. But it was his obedience with not cutting his hair. And when he got disobedient, Delilah, Samson had a woman problem. That that was that. And of course, David, probably one of the greatest kings of all time, leaders of all time. But he went through. And I love these guys because they faced challenges. Peter faced challenges, and they overcame them. And and within that, they still finished up strong as a leader. And I love that. I love the fact. So those are four of my favorite. And then I also look at them, how would they be as a football player? You know, David would probably be that quarterback. I got Peter playing more of a defensive tackle. Samson, I was like, that boy, he's like, you put him at D line or linebacker, and Joshua just gets it and goes. So I hand him the ball, let him go with it. Yes, I locked it all in, and I did think about that. But they were aggressive. They were all aggressive leaders, willing to seek conflict with with a mindset to win at all cost. And they trusted God in all that. So that goes right back into the sports phases. Why did I pick sports? Well, because I love sports. I don't think I know there's many great things on this planet that people do, whether it's singing, dancing, whatever it might be, acting. I just think that there's nothing greater than sports because it's a conflict no matter what sport you're playing. There's competition, you're competing. It draws out the best in you. It can draw out the best in a person. And so that's why I love so much. I love sports. And that's why I thought it was important because I believe they all tie in to each other and with each other in some way, shape, or form. So with that, when this great event that's coming up, Super Bowl 60, which by the way, my uncle Dave Robinson, number 89, you see his jersey right up there. He was in the first that jersey was in the first two Super Bowls. So you know the first two Super Bowls, Green Bay won. They beat the Kansas City Chiefs and then they beat the Oakland Raiders. So they won the first two Super Bowls. So anyway, the the Super Bowl matchup. A lot of people say, "Man, who do you think's gonna win the Super Bowl?" Well, my question is, how did football become the number one sport in the country? Because from 1817 to 1920, it was horse racing and boxing. And 1920 to 1950s or so, baseball really took over. And then in the 60s, it was 60 through the 80s, football began to rise, but boxing reemerged itself. Baseball was always hovering around. And in 1990s to 2000s, that's when football just really took off. And in 2000s through now, you have football. If you looked at it, it's football, basketball, baseball, but I love hockey too, as far as the top four sports in our country. Soccer's starting to move its way up. Uh, a big burst of lacrosse. Lacrosse is really starting to explode. Then you have your tennis and your golfs and things of that nature, but you have so many things that's going on. But number one is still football. Now, will it still be around 50 years from now? I don't know. Let me see. I'm 57. That's 100. So I plan on living to 120. So I'll let you know in 100 in 50 years. But coming up on this Super Bowl, before I close out in the next 5 minutes or so, who am I picking to win? Well, offensively, the Seahawks are putting up more yards in the playoffs than the Patriots. Excuse me, but some of those Patriot numbers are strewed uh, because of the weather that they played in Denver. So offensively, you got the Seahawks for yards, passing yards, rushing yards does go to the Patriots, and points per game in the playoffs. Uh, Seahawks are averaging 36, and the Patriots are averaging 18. Now, once again, the Patriots had to play a terrific Texans defense, and then they had to go into that mess of a weather and playing against a terrific Broncos defense. And I don't think the Patriots, I mean, I'm sorry, I don't think the Seahawks played either team that they had to play had the same level of defense. Plus, they were good, fair, there was nice weather. Same level of defenses that the Patriots had to play. Defensively, though, defense is the strength of both teams. During the season, the Patriots gave up 295.2 yards per game, and in the playoffs, they're giving up approximately 209.7 yards. Of course, a lot of that is helped by that weather that was in Denver. Uh, Seahawks 285.9 yards given up during the season, but in the playoffs, they're averaging 357.5. That's because the Rams got out there throwing the ball around the field like they lost their mind. So that was really big. So uh, pass wise, oh, that was total yards, but pass wise, they're giving up 246 yards, and Patriots are giving up 138.3 yards per game in the playoffs. You have total points. I'm sorry. The rushing, they're only giving up 71.3 yards. The Patriots and Seahawks 111. Scoring wise, Seahawks are only giving up 16.5. That's because they chewed up San Francisco in that first game. And the Patriots only giving up 8.7. But a lot of that had to do with what was going on in Denver and the weather and the fact that Denver did not have its starting quarterback. So all those things add up into those statistics. I love this part. During the season, Patriots have 35 sacks, Seahawks 47 interceptions. Uh, Patriots have 10, and the Seahawks have 18. So you really see across the line, they're really balanced out statistically. I'm going to take the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks are going to win this football game, and I believe the Seahawks are going to win this football game because I believe they're a more complete team. They're coming in with a better defense. If they can limit turnovers, and Sam doesn't get out there throwing the ball to the other team, and they really, if they can run the ball. Now they lost their best running back, but these other cats have really stepped up and they've really been running well. So if they can do those things, I really believe they're going to win this football game. But I think it's going to be a really tight game. This will not be a blowout football game. So I got the Seahawks winning. I'm going to say 27-24. 27-24. Let's go with the last second field goal. Let's really make it exciting. I'm not watching a halftime show. We can get into. I'm not watching it. And I think it's only going to take away from the game. Uh, And I wish they get back to putting artists out there that all they do is go out there and entertain, and they're not coming out with a political statement or any other kind of statement. I just want you to go out there and be the Michael Jackson, be the Prince, uh, um, be those acts that get out there and you just do your thing. You just perform with Snoop Dogg and Dre and them, and you're not coming in with a political agenda because you don't like somebody. For one Sunday of a big point, let's just go out there to enjoy it. But anyway, that's it for God, Politics, and Sports. I really appreciate you being with us today. And please make sure you fill up the comment area of all the things and then also things you may want to hear me talk about. But once again, our first guest will be down the line, and I will only start with Bishop Dr. Michael Brown. He's a great mentor. He's my spiritual father, terrific businessman. So that will be our first guest. And then from there, we have a lot of exciting things that are going to. I can't wait to start interviewing these little athletes out here. We'll talk to the high school coaches around the city. We'll work on getting Coach Warner from Pebble Hills to talk. Coach Torres from around the city. I believe I know Coach Valise at Hanks and El Dorado coaches. So we really want to get all these coaches involved in the things that we're doing, as well as businessmen like financiers like Jason Murray or future mayor of El Paso, Tanya Murray. We want to get these folks in and get them interviewed and all the great things that are going on. So once again, God bless you, love you all, and know that this is the greatest time because you live in the greatest country in the world. GPS out.
That wraps up today's episode of GPS God, Politics, and Sports. And as always, thank you so much for joining me. Stay engaged, stay grounded.